Hey, I hope you guys are doing well. In this video, we are going to be looking at Boeing. That's going to be ticker symbol BA. Now, Boeing has seen a lot of price action this week as we have bounced off of roughly the mid 150s this week and have now trended all the way back up towards 175. I want to go ahead and break down Boeing from a technical standpoint and kind of get some levels of support and resistance and where we might see Boeing as we move into the future. Now, to start, I want to look here at the weekly time frames. This is dating all the way back to the beginning stages of 2017 and the push up all the way to our all-time highs up here at about $450 a share, and then how we have broken down. Now, before we dive into the chart here, I want to point out the RSI. Now, the RSI for some period of time had been trending downward all the way from about the beginning of 2018. Now, I want to go ahead and move me out of the way. I'll move myself over there. And we can look here at the RSI. So we had the top back here in early 2018. We then tapped it again. We hit our all-time high up here around 450. And then you can see each time we came close to it, so right here in the later stages of 2019, a couple of times, we were selling back down and now making lower highs. And eventually, as we started out this year, we came close to it just one more time and then had the big sell-off. And usually this is what you will see happen. It looked as if, you can see here on the RSI, every time we were getting down here around 40, we would see buyers step in and the price would bounce just a little bit, or at least consolidate. And then finally, when we hit it that one last time, we broke below 40 here on the RSI and we sold all the way down. Since then, we bounced back up to about that 40 range, and then we broke through this downward trend here on the RSI, and it looks as if we've kind of back tested it, and now we're moving forward from there. That is just, one thing that I was looking at. That does not mean that Boeing is, heading back up here into the 300 range anytime soon. But that was something that I noticed and I wanted to pass along to you guys. Now, let's go ahead here and look at the chart. All right, so, oh my goodness, let me move this back down and zoom this back out a little bit. So again, here on the weekly, one more notable thing to look at is the current week that we are trading in. You can see this is a bullish engulfing candle now in comparison to the previous week. So if we close out the next 2 days higher than we currently stand, or right around where we currently stand, this will be a bullish engulfing candle, which will be a very bullish sign. You can see we're right here on the 9-day moving average. So if we close above it and we open next week above it, I think, again, that'll be a pretty bullish sign. If we start to retrace back down towards 170 and maybe back into the 160s, I think that will be a bearish sign, and that this could be a bit of a fake out to the upside, and that we could be trending back down. Now, if we go ahead and move this into the 4-hour time frame, you can see a bit of a pattern here on Boeing. We had this big run up here in the later stages of March, and then we saw this sell down or this descending triangle pattern form right in here. And for the most part, we had a support down here in the low 120s, around 125. So I'll go ahead and put that in. And you can see we can scoot it just a little bit lower, so maybe right around 120. Yeah, so right in here. And I want to point something out, because as this was forming and we got down here right around 120, 125, we actually broke below, but it was just for one day. We dipped all the way down to 114. Then we saw the buyers step in and push us out of this descending triangle, and that is what started this big run all the way up to $240 a share. It was over a 100% increase over the span of just a few weeks, and that is similar to what we are now seeing in Boeing. We once again saw this descending triangle formation here. I don't necessarily want to take it from there, but if we look right in here, we had a bit of a descending triangle, a lower high, a lower high, a lower high, and then we finally broke down. We had this big support right in here, right around 170, and then we broke down. We that pattern failed, broke to the low side. The shorts probably were dipping in, and then we saw the big money come in. I've seen a lot of really large orders coming in here on Boeing. Just yesterday, I was seeing a $43 million trade come into Boeing. Now, whether that is for the long or the short term, you don't really know. But needless to say, there's a lot of big money that is now moving into Boeing. And if we zoom this back out a little bit, the fact that we bounced right around 150 was not too surprising. That was the level that I was looking at, was right around 155. And if you look right in here, that is where we had our tops back here in early April. So we had a top that kind of pushed through it, another top, and then another top that was just below it. And then as we were moving back up after we had this big swing, that is what acted as a resistance. And once we finally broke through 155, that is where we saw a lot of money flow into Boeing and shoot the price all the way up here to $240 a share. So with where we currently stand, it's not always going to be, what we saw in the past. This could just as easy, it could very easily push up and then, fail and push back to the downside, back down here around the 150 mark. And if we fail there, we can move even lower. That would not be too surprising. But what I'm looking at is this continuation. If we can now continue back to the upside, we now have a lot of big money in the stock. We are pushing back up. We have broken this downward trending pattern. We've cracked up above 170, and we actually closed above it, which I think is pretty strong for us today. The level that I now want to look at is up here around $180 a share. So I'll go ahead and throw in a line right in there. Resistance line. If we move it in a bit closer, you can see it acted as a support many times. Once we broke down through it, it was acting as a resistance, and then we finally failed, and that is what led to this breakdown of that descending triangle right in there. So that's really what I'm looking at, is right around 180 all the way up here towards about $181 to $82 a share is where I'm really looking to see the resistance come in. From there, if we break above that, our next big level is probably going to be up here in the upper 180s, right around 187 to 188. But, realistically, I'm wanting to see this thing push all the way back up towards $200 a share. Again, I don't think that it's necessarily going to do it by the end of this week, or maybe even by the end of next week. But as the weeks go by, I want to see, now that we have broken this downward trending pattern, I want to see this push back up and close in right in here around $200 a share. And at that point, if we see something similar to what we saw back here in June, to where we push up, we hit that resistance, pull back down, gain some new buyers, and then we see a big push, that could mean pushing all the way up here towards about $210 a share if we see enough liquidity in the market. So for me, Boeing right now I think is a pretty good opportunity. As we saw this breakdown, a lot of new money rolling into the stock, breaking this downward trending pattern. We closed above 170, which was previously a big support. So for us to break through it relatively easy today, having a nice 5% move to the upside, I think is a good sign. My next target is going to be up here around $180 a share. If we can break through it, then I'm looking towards the upper 180s, say around 188. If we fail to the downside, we have these moving averages that may act as support somewhere down here in the mid 160s, but I want to see us hold down here at 160 or say 155. If we break down from there, this will have been a fake breakout to the upside, and I think that there will be more downside to come where we could push below $150 a share. So I hope you guys found this video informative. Hit the like if you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment on your opinions on Boeing. I would love to hear about them. Until next time, guys, take it easy.